World of Warcraft class. We do not have to do this again. It is time for the Deadmines, and the servers are down. My live reaction says it all. Oh my, this is so sad. The one time I decided not to wake up at 4 p.m., I couldn't even play the game. After being bored clip farming on TF2 all afternoon, I could finally log in and destroy the Defias once and for all. I began by begging in the looking for group chat, looking for anyone to join me. Soon after, I moved to the local chat, and within moments I was messaged by a mage that was willing to join and do all the work for me. As I laid down by the meeting stone, the mage had found 3 others for us to party up with. We had a level 24 gnome rogue named Crackerjax, a level 16 night elf rogue named Vyra? I can't care anymore. And finally, we had a level 20 dwarf priest who was named Beerlord. I was pretty sure we'd be fine. Why was I so naive? We start off with some team building by taking a group photo in front of the meeting stone. Now, we're finally ready for the task at hand. We all make it into the dungeon and are prepared for the grueling experience ahead. If you don't know how a dungeon works in an MMO, basically you have 3 people who do damage, 1 person who heals the team, and 1 person who takes the damage, that being me. In the dungeon, there are a plethora of elite grade enemies, which basically means they have a lot more health and do a lot more damage. Many of these enemies are also in groups, meaning doing the dungeon by yourself, when it's level appropriate anyway, is next to impossible. Every dungeon also has bosses. Bosses are basically one enemy that is even more difficult than an elite grade enemy that can drop some really good loot. My goal as the tank is to survive British gang fights constantly so the healer can focus his healing on me. As a paladin, I keep the enemy's attention through a buff called Righteous Fury, which makes it so my holy damage increases my threat with the enemy, making them want to attack me. If all of this makes no sense, then TLDR, I make the ground yellow so the enemies attack me and only me. This doesn't always go perfectly, however, and sometimes a damage character will get more threat than me, which we will get into more later on. Thus far, the dungeon had been going very smoothly, and I was doing a pretty decent job keeping the enemies attacking me. We were just about to face the first real boss, however, so I was getting quite nervous. Before the boss, we safely executed all of the enemies in the boss room, so we could prevent having to fight them all as we were fighting the boss man himself. When we finally got to fight Sneed, I'm not even going to comment. There was only one extra tiny vermin scum we had to take out along with the real boss. We take down Sneed's mech, and now have to fight the man himself, which I must have not known as I immediately started looting the mech. I recover well, however, and we finish off our first Defias ally scum. What was the loot, you ask? The loot he dropped was trash! We made our way deeper into the Deadmines and some decent leather boots drop. Of course I win a roll for an item that's absolutely abysmal for me, and of course my inventory's full. We eventually made our way to a lava and goblin-filled foundry. I genuinely didn't know what a foundry was before this dungeon. Video games are good for education, guys, I promise. Similar to the prior boss, we clear out all of the stupid, good-for-nothing goblins. Not without a close call, of course, and begin our battle with Gilneed. Gilneed, a new name designer, Blizzard. This is abysmal! Crackerjack accidentally made a couple extra enemies attack us, but thankfully, Beerlord wasn't too smashed yet. His healing was great. I'm sure it will stay this way. At this point, we had this place down to a science. Game, eat, repeat. We made it outside the cave to a massive pirate ship. We made it outside I can't do it with a straight face. We made it outside to a massive dock where Cracker, maybe I should say his full name, and Crackerjack showed us a way to skip a bunch of enemies by swimming past them. Immaculate game design. This lets us skip immediately to the next boss, Mr. Smite. Okay, this name's actually pretty badass, Blizzard. I'll give you 1 point. Mr. Smite does tons of damage, and you know how I said Beerlord wasn't smashed earlier? Well, apparently that changed as he forgot where his heal button was and decided he would rather stay on full freaking mana. After I was smitten down, our team had still won the battle, but certainly not the war. I am revived by the alcoholic and we continue into the massive ship. We made it further up the ship where we ended up exposing some pirates for getting their costumes at Party City, and they were not happy. Beerlord ends up getting targeted and I'm frozen, meaning that both of us died, having to run half a marathon just to get back into the dungeon. When we finally arrive, me and Beer die again. At this point, our mage must have said F it as he got off of WoW for the rest of the night. The war was not looking good for our heroes. After we finally made it back to the pirate ship, we began clearing out all of these fake pirate it slowly but surely until we had made it to the top of the ship. We ended up killing the filthy, disgusting, diabolical, second-in-command Captain Greenskin and moved on to the real final boss of the Deadmines. We must have all been insanely delusional that night as we full sent it into Edwin VanCleef.
Oh my god.
The boss fight! Also, take the nostalgia glasses off, Grandpa. This name is not that good. We enact the simple strategy of killing his goons first, then focusing down VanCleef himself, even after he gets more goons. Beerlord runs out of mana, so I get clapped and it was up to the others. The others slay VanCleef, but his guards were still very alive. Crackerjacks took this for granted, and now our only hope was slain. With Vyra being severely underleveled and Beerlord being more hammered than ever, they had no way of winning this fight. With my final breath, I scream, "Run!" And Crackerjacks tells them to get to the wheel, which must be a safe spot where no enemies can attack them. They convincingly make it to the wheel, where they twiddle their thumbs for the next 10 minutes. They thought the guards would try to kill them as they were still in combat, but eventually they just sent it. Beerlord revived us, and we got another trash draw! I turn in VanCleef's head and claim my just reward, a shiny pair of pants. Now completely finished with Westfall and the Defias genocide, I went back to Lochmadan to finish some extra quests I had. From doing the slowest escort mission ever, I hit level 21 and continue onward by brutally murdering some trogs. While doing this, I get some shoulder pads, which made me realize I don't even have a helmet yet, and I'm sick of looking at that haircut, so the quest for the helmet begins. When I went to the Lochmadan Dam, I was asked to commit some more genocide. Keefernagnix, being reminded of his roots, immediately accepted and learned about the Dark Iron Dwarven bums. These were not real dwarves, and I'm sure we will lead to their demise later on. If you remember from last episode, I completely forgot to talk to the Flight Master in the Wetlands, so I began my 54th grueling walk of Classic WoW, and slowly but surely made my way back to Menethil Arbor. I was not bored at all while waiting for the boat.
Dex, chill.
Looking back, I think I'm just insane. I made it back to the embodiment of the Great Depression and prepared to mindlessly quest here for a while my dad was rocking out. I make it to level 22 and realize for the first time I could mine the same rock multiple times before it breaks. Phenomenal game design. Shortly after, I ended up promising a gnome I would bring his robot AI lover back to him. Sadly for him, his baby girl was programmed to be a bit too protective and started trying to kill me. I slay that hoe, collecting my reward while Gelkak was still crying. How did the names get worse? As boring as Darkshore is, I still have some Dark Iron dwarves and trolls to kill, so after you get used to the minimalist color palette, it's not that bad.
Look at that bomb. Look at this bomb. Yeah, different angle.
I continue across the beach and run into Ruzel. I'm not sure if she was an OnlyFangs model or not, but she had 2 bodyguards. I don't know. She seemed pretty mid to me. On my way back to the city of Darkshore, I decided to do the worst escort mission ever. Don't worry that I forgot to record the first time. My game crashed anyway. This man Rem Travel pulls every enemy and only remembers the artifact was with some bum across the dang map after I escort him around the entire camp. At this point I knew I had to be done with this area, so I went back to the Wetlands, and I was not complaining about the view. I did all of that just to have to go back to Darkshore for a quest turn in. God, this game is so perfect. At this point, I just wanted to get out of the Western continent, but the game did not feel the same.
Please. Please.
Please. No. Please. No. No. Both the boats left me.
Oh my god.
I ended up going to the Night Elf capital of Darnassus. That was a complete snooze fest, so I got out of there as soon as possible. When I finally made it back to the Eastern Kingdoms, I felt privileged. I was allowed to do my genocide again and was ecstatic. Until I realized I would have to go a mile distance, so I decided to go to Ironforge to turn in a quest. If procrastination had a meter, I would be topping the charts. I turn in the quest, getting me to level 24, then curl up into a ball and question my life choices. I collected my stacks of money from the auction house and made my way back to the Red Ridge Mountains so I could do some of the higher level quests here. This included taking out this overhyped bum of a pig, Belly Grub, wiping out more Murlocs, and finally finishing off the Knolls while doing some good old-fashioned bush camping. When I finished these quests, I took my Hearthstone back to the beautiful Colorville, but don't worry, we would be back to the dull very soon. I level up, making it to level 25 while doing some quests in Colorville, and was told to take this amazingly scenic passage to the Stone Talon Mountains. It was 3 in the morning, and I was completely immersed. Now actually arriving in the Stone Talon Mountains, I realized this place was not nearly as amazing as the build-up and logged off in front of a cave for the night. The next day I was extremely prepared to get back into the grind. (3:28 p.m. Wow. I begin exploring through the cave where I kill more innocent rat-like creatures while trying to get to a quest that I didn't know was basically impossible. This quest starts by a filthy goblin telling you to protect him while he mines, and he'll give you some of the ore. Regretfully, I did oblige, and the quest started out fairly tame with a pack of 3 mobs. This certainly wasn't easy, but it was manageable, and the enemies were fairly low level. They gave you some time to rest before the next group, which is a group of 4. I hung on barely, but I'm sure you know where this is going. The next pack was a pack of 5. I was absolutely overwhelmed as I didn't have any of my cooldowns and got completely destroyed. This quest being green for my level, this meaning it's supposed to be easy, messed up my ego and I would never enter this cave again. I decided to do some different quests in the area and ended up killing these lion-bat hybrids. I don't understand either, don't worry. Soon after, I passed through the Stone Talon Mountains to the Barrens, which was Horde territory. Through cleverly getting past the Horde guards, I was able to continue over to Ratchet and take a boat to Booty Bay, which I promise is not a mini golf course. Booty Bay is at the very southern tip of the Eastern Kingdoms, meaning I could finally make it back to Stormwind after being in Kalimdor for the last 2 painful hours. In Stormwind, I tried to get anyone to do the next dungeon I planned on doing, and in turn ended up begging in chat again. After 15 minutes of finding no one willing to do the Stockades, I made my way back to Westfall so I could do some quests in Spookyville, aka Duskwood. I level up to 26 from doing some grave digging, and continue to do nothing interesting for the next 3 hours apparently, as my next clip is at 8 PM where somebody randomly messaged me, "Don't ever run from this." Well, after being mildly terrified, I run into Nikocado Avocado's cousin, Stitches, but no one really wanted to fight him with me, so I ran away, killed a ghost, realized Darkshire's Flight Master had been killed by some dirty Horde player. I definitely didn't just forget to talk to the Flight Master, and made the impulse decision to go back to the Stone Talon Mountains, where I made it to level 27. I was at this point ready for an area called the Charred Vale, which I spent the next hour killing harpies and crocodiles with some sort of STI, giving them glowing crystals around their body. Why'd I do that in one breath? After all of these killings, I decided to head down south to Desolus, as it would be faster to go there and fly back up to my quest turn-in. On my way there, however, there was the most terrifying specimen I've ever seen in my entire life. This man was an absolute unit, accompanied by a pet bear. Both of them being skull level means they would destroy me in a fight. I slipped past them narrowly and made it to the Flight Master so I could fly from Pooville back to Colorfulville. Another night staying up far too late playing WoW was complete. When I had tried to go back to Darkshire again, I realized it wasn't a Horde player who had killed the Flight Master. I simply didn't talk to him. I was only a little bitter on my run back to Spookyville, but when I was finally flying back to Stormwind, I messaged a fellow Iron Guardian to see if they wanted to run the Stockades. He actually said yes! From here, I continued finding more and more people until we had a full 5-man squad and we were ready to stop the riots. We started by posing up on the stairs before the dungeon, and started another quest towards Defias genocide. The early pulls were going perfectly, and we were destroying these shirtless Defias until disaster struck. Our highest level DPS had to go and work. I'm beginning to see a theme here. 2 dungeons in a row with somebody leaving did not give me high thoughts of my social skills, but we did the Deadmines with 4 people, so I'm sure we could do the stocks. We continued through the easy mobs until we were face to face with Dextrin Ward. This name is certainly something, where we immediately pull every other mob in the area as we didn't clear them before fighting him. There were so many enemies and we were having a riot. I know, I'm here all episode. No, please don't click off the... After we walked back to the Stockades, we decided to actually clear the enemies in the other room this time, and easily take down Dextrin. We continued through the dungeon until we wiped to a mildly large pack of unhappy convicts. Luckily, our other paladin escaped the hunks and managed to revive all of us. Our healer grabs a beer, and at this point, I knew we would destroy the Defias. We roll through the mobs that had killed us before, and come up against a giant named Hamhawk. After a lightly intense battle, we take him down and now face the final hurdle, Basil Thread. Oh, he's dead? This boss fight is nearly as trash as his name, as he went down without a fight. With the dungeon completed, I realized I had not completed all of the quests, as I still needed to kill 3 more convicts. I asked where these dudes are at, and our healer and paladin immediately left the group. Just amazing. Me and the hunter were determined to finish the quest, however, so we went back in as a duo, but only saw 1 convict in the starting area. We reset the instance so all enemies respawn, and there was a convict patrolling right by the entrance. At this point, we only needed to kill 1 more convict, so we kept resetting the instance until eventually we got our last kill. Funnily enough, this dude was actually the only guildmate in the squad, so we added up and I had a friend for the future. I turned in all of my quests from the dungeon, getting me to level 28 and marking the end of today's journey. Solo time. These videos take me forever. With an 8.5-page script, hours of editing, and even more hours of footage. This series may take me a little while. The main issue is the more you play WoW, the longer it takes to get content. For example, if you noticed in the first episode, I made it to level 20, but in this episode, I only made it to level 28. The graph of in-game time to content looks a little something like this, so these videos will probably keep taking a couple weeks, or maybe even longer to come out. If you guys continue the support by liking and subscribing, Keefernagnix and I will definitely see you in the next episode. For now, I'm gonna get to work making the most brain-dead thumbnail I could possibly make.